YNW Melly's murder trial has been filled with bizarre moments. In some instances, the rapper seems to be in a state of bliss, which is shocking as his freedom lies in the hands of 12 jurors. The rapper has been mumbling to himself a lot during court proceedings, bringing to question his sanity. So what has Melly been mouthing to himself? Stay tuned as we reveal this and so much more on the case so far. Melly's mouthing revealed with all eyes on YNW Melly during his trial. The rapper kept the internet guessing as he portrayed what seemed to be out-of-character reactions to the happenings around him in court, from forgetting to stand up at the right time to blowing kisses in the air. The trial was not short of moments that will be remembered for ages. The rapper still faces first-degree murder charges of two of his friends, Christopher Thomas Jr., alias YNW Juvie, and Anthony Williams, who went by YNW Sack Chaser, even though the judge ruled it a mistrial after jurors could not come to a unanimous decision. There's no doubt that Melly has a strong personality, which has played a major role in his rising rap career. With his freedom and life hanging by a thread, the last anyone expected was moments of casualness. However, Melly treated everyone to such moments throughout the trial. A good example is this moment between him and a member of his defense team. The man shows Melly something on his phone, and the two laugh it off. Another moment that picked the public's attention was the closeness and chatty nature of the rapper with his lawyer, Raven Liberty. Mrs. Liberty has been in the limelight during this trial for two reasons. First, her mugshot started circulating on the internet. It turns out that she has been on the wrong side of the law at one time in her life. In 2022, she was arrested and booked into Miami jail for battery in 2022, but the charges were eventually dropped. According to sources, Mrs. Liberty had to pay a $1,500 fine. The attorney, who is based in Miami, has been practicing law since the early 2000s. The 48-year-old has handled high-profile cases before, with her most notable client being rapper Kodak Black. She represented Kodak back in 2016 when he had a first-degree criminal sexual conduct case against him. The other reason she was trending was her notebook, which generated quite a lot of attention from those watching the events of the trial unfold. Her notebook, read evil plans and stuff on the outside. Netizens found it strange coming from the attorney of a man charged with first-degree murder. To many, Melly's actions in court have seemed very random and unplanned. However, no matter the level of spontaneity the rapper possesses, his behavior in court has widely been received with suspicion, as these moments from the trial were largely taken out of context. One of the moments that was taken out of context and saw Melly get bashed on the internet include this one where he appears to pray, then finishes the prayer by blowing a kiss. While this may be an innocent ritual that the rapper liked to perform, rumors had started to spread, alleging that the kiss was directed to the family of the murdered victims. This may have been the case, as some of the victims' family members later reacted to this. Leandra Phillips, the mother of YNW Juvie, spoke out condemning the moment. While speaking to the press, she said, "I walked out because what are you praying for? You sitting there like you ain't got no remorse? Like every time I walk in, you smiling. This ain't the time for that. This is sad. This case is serious." Another moment that caught people's eye during the trial was Melly popping his head and mumbling what looked like lyrics to a song. With many surprised at how calm the rapper was while doing this, there might actually be a history behind this. The story goes back all the way to 2015, when Melly was arrested for firing a gun near a high school.
A teenager has been arrested in Vero Beach after he fired shots near Vero Beach High School.
At 16 years old, Melly was already getting into trouble with the law. The rapper was charged with 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and 1 count of discharging a firearm in public. It was during the year-long jail sentence that he experienced his music breakthrough. In the boredom of the daily routine in prison life, the limited creative expression, and the loneliness of being away from friends and family, he began taking his songwriting seriously. While on an interview, he recalled how he wrote his breakout single Murder on My Mind. According to him, he beat his fist against his chest to tap out a beat as he sang and wrote the full song in his cell. "I remembered it, kept going over it in my head. I sang it every day," the rapper said. It seems as though music was his therapy while in jail. During his most trying times, he turned to music. The song had become so popular among the guys he was locked up with that some even gave him Rice Krispie treats in exchange for live performances of the song. Therefore, it is not a surprise to see the rapper bopping his head and seemingly writing down lyrics as he faces the most challenging time of his life. Melly has also served viewers with some comedic moments. The most memorable one was where the rapper is seen sniffing himself. Something weird must have been in the air, and the rapper wanted to confirm that it wasn't him. While this moment gave the public something to laugh about and take the heat off the serious proceedings, many could not help but notice his choice of clothing, the turtleneck. It turns out that there was a reason why the rapper was wearing turtlenecks in some of the court proceedings. The main reason it would seem that this particular choice of outfit is assumed to be an attempt to hide his tattoos, particularly the ones he has on his neck. It turns out that he has 2 tattoos on his neck. One is written Jana, while the other is Jamie. The Jamie tattoo is not a big deal since that is his mother's name. However, the Jana tattoo is what what he may be trying to hide. It turns out that Jana Thompson is Sack Chaser's mother. This shows that the two were really close. Therefore, it would be a bad look for the rapper if he was found guilty of killing Sack Chaser, yet he had his mom's name tattooed on his neck. This would show that he was nothing short of inhumane. Speaking to TMZ, Sack Chaser's mother shared how they, as a family, viewed the relationship between the two boys and how the trial and the entire situation was difficult for them. "We opened up our homes and our hearts to them," she said. "Feels like another stab in the heart to myself and my family. They didn't just wine and dine. They brought their families together, making the situation even more sad and devastating. This painstaking betrayal will forever live with the families of Juvie and Sack Chaser if the rapper is found guilty." Emotions were already high in the courtroom as proceedings went on. Twitter user Brisson Paul, through a series of tweets, shared what the audience watching the live stream could not see. On one occasion, he shared that at one point during the trial, authorities asked Sack Chaser's mom to exit the courtroom, which she initially refused to do. However, when she was finally led out of the court, Melly was seen laughing. The tweet read, "Melly has a big laugh as Sack Chaser's mother is requested to leave the courtroom by authorities at the end of trial after she said to him, 'I'm not going anywhere.'" Sack Chaser's mom exits the courtroom. This was not the first time that Melly was reacting to members of the public watching the court proceedings. While sometimes he was seen smiling toward the audience present, other times he looked downright agitated. For example, in this clip, the rapper clearly looked pissed off at something and brought it up with his lawyer. Luckily, Mrs. Liberty was calm and did not fuel people's speculation on what may have caused the outburst. One of the most touching moments in the case was between Melly and his mother, Jamie King. Miss King mostly found her position in the first row seat in the courtroom gallery, somewhere close and within eye view of his son. The two seemed to have a close relationship, especially given the fact that she had him when she was only 14 and still a child herself. Melly mouths something in court, and it does seem that she responds. In the clip, Melly seems to be asking her whether she is okay and even asks her to smile. Melly's affection for the mom paints an image of a young boy who is trying to be strong. So how come he is considered the main suspect in the death of his close friend's murders? Did he really come up with and actualize a plan that eventually had him locked up in jail without bond for 4 years as investigations continued? How did YNW Melly's life end up in the hands of 12 jury members? Case background. On the 21st of October 2018 at 4:35 a.m., a panicked YNW Bortland drove a gray Jeep Compass to Memorial Hospital Miramar. With him inside the car were the bodies of his two friends, Sack Chaser and Juvie. Unfortunately, the two were dead from multiple gun wounds from a supposed drive-by shooting that had happened moments earlier. However, a few months later, news broke out that Melly and Bortland were behind bars in connection to the death of their friends. According to evidence compiled by investigators, there were obvious contradictions to the statements Bortland had given and that the two had staged the drive-by. According to Bortland, who was driving the night of the event that led up to his friends dying, just after they left the recording studio, he was pulling off the freeway when a car pulled up on the passenger side and opened fire. As soon as he heard shots being fired, his reflexes took over, and he quickly ducked. After the near-death experience, he checked on his friends only to realize that they had been shot. He drove straight to the hospital. Melly was not in the car. Apparently, he had hopped into another car that was accompanying them that night, a red Mitsubishi. From CCTV footage obtained by cops, both vehicles are seen heading in the same direction. Although at around 3:50 a.m., only the red Mitsubishi was captured on CCTV going through the guard gate at Sunset Lakes. This was where the group lived together. Things got even more interesting when cops revealed their version of events from the evidence they had gathered from the car, the crime scene, plus the autopsies of Sack Chaser and Juvie. All these, paired up with CCTV footage, text messages, and history of the relationship between the YNW crew, detectives believed that they had a solid case against Melly and Bortland. So how did the cops figure it out? First, they believed that Melly was the one who fired the fatal shots that ended up killing Sack Chaser and Juvie. They also had key evidence that placed the rapper at the crime scene. Needless to say, according to them, the whole drive-by story was a lie. Bortland had tried to convince the police that the incident took place at Miramar Parkway Road. However, when the police checked the area, they couldn't find any evidence of a crime scene. It is expected that when a drive-by shooting occurs, various things are left behind at the crime scene. For example, there would have been tire mark, glass fragments, and shell casings scattered in the area. Interestingly, when the detectives couldn't find any of these in the area where Bortland alleged, they expanded their search. Still, their efforts came up empty. This interesting turn of events wasn't the only shocking discovery the police made. While Bortland had claimed that the incident took place at around 4:02 a.m., evidence from the medical examiner told a different tale. The medical examiner revealed that the victims had died much earlier than that. Ballistics experts from the police department also made shocking revelations. By studying the bullet's trajectory and the gunshot wounds that claimed the lives of Sack Chaser and Juvie, it was determined that Sack Chaser was killed by a gunshot wound on the left side of his his neck. On the other hand, Juvie's fatal gunshot wound was on his left cheek. This shows that whoever fired the shots was seated on the left rear passenger side of the car. So did the cops know who was seated in the shooter's seat? Well, using CCTV footage from the recording studio, cops were able to determine who sat on the left rear passenger seat. YNW Melly was the one seen entering the car and seating on the alleged shooter's seat as they left the recording studio that morning. Bortland also mentioned that Melly was not in the car when the incident happened because he was in a different car. Well, Melly's cell phone data told a different story.
The state intends to show the evidence that the phone was there at the murder scene, and there were no other phones there. There is no one else out there at 4 in the morning.
It was established that Melly remained inside the Jeep as they drove up to Pines Boulevard and then proceeded west to the edge of the Everglades, which, according to the prosecution, is desolate. This choice of location further deepens the rapper's involvement in the case as they ended up in Pembroke Road. The road dead ends at a trash facility. The area did not have any streetlights or people passing, making it a perfect place to carry out the murders. Here, they believe Melly exited the vehicle and staged the drive-by. According to police, there were no other cell phones in the area during that time, which meant that the 4 rappers were alone that night. It is important to note that after cops had obtained the cell phone data, they headed to Pembroke Road, where they uncovered a shocking discovery. They found 8 shell casings, which, according to them, was where the drive-by shooting was staged. While here, Melly also made a FaceTime call to his then-girlfriend, Mariah Hamilton. This seemed like the right move at the time since it made sure that he had an alibi. The rapper then contacted fellow rapper Frederick Givens, alias Fredo Bang, to come and pick him up. According to prosecutors, Melly sent Fredo Bang 2 pin locations, which proved that Melly was not in the red Mitsubishi and was in fact at the scene of the crime. In 2019, after Melly was arrested for his alleged role in the crime, he took to Instagram to claim his innocence and termed the accusations as rumors and lies. To all my fans and supporters, no, I did not get locked up in Washington, but I am turning myself in today, the rapper wrote. I want you guys to know I love you and appreciate every single one of y'all. A couple months ago, I lost my 2 brothers by violence, and now the system want to find justice. Unfortunately, a lot of rumors and lies are being said, but no worries, God is with me and my brother YNW Bortland, and we want y'all to remember it's a YNW family. I love you, Sack Chaser and Juvie. When Melly found out that Bortland had been arrested and that there was a warrant out for his arrest, he had presented himself to the cops and was booked into the Broward County Jail on February 13th. He was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. The events leading to him turning himself in were dramatic. At first, the police mistakenly arrested someone they misidentified as Melly. In fact, Melly's lawyers used the incident to request the judge to release the rapper on bond, as he had no intentions of running away. They argued that if their client was going to take advantage of the possibility of leaving the state, he would have already done so. The defendant poses no flight risk, as he knew what the charges were pending against him, and he still chose to self-surrender, the rapper's lawyers told the court. If he wanted to run, he would have run when learning of the misidentification of the other individual that was arrested at the venue in the District of Columbia. However, Melly was denied bond. They both pleaded not guilty to the charges. From the beginning, the case was always going to be complicated and emotional. The 4 were close friends and had grown up together. Over the years, the 3, Melly, Sack Chaser, and Juvie, had become family. Melly loved his brothers so much that he even had tattoos of their names on his face.
So what you got tattooed on your face? Tell me about it a little bit.
You know, I got Sack Chaser right here. That's my brother. That's my twin.
Okay.
And I got Juvie.
Juvie?
Yeah, that's my brother.
Just a lot of your friends who passed?
Yeah. Nah, them is right there.
Melly's defense lawyer didn't shy away from accusing the prosecution of targeting Melly because he is famous. Among the group, Melly had blown up before Sack Chaser and Juvie, especially after releasing his track, Murder on My Mind. As a result, he had become more successful, almost carrying the weight of the whole team. He also was the one making the most money. So when the prosecution mentioned a dispute over money as a motive behind Sack Chaser and Juvie's murder, the defense was quick to refute it. The attorney also insinuated that the lead investigator accused Melly of clout, saying that prosecutors become stars when they go after stars like Melly.
And then he discovered that Mr. Demons was a rising star. And from that point on, he decided he's the only person that could have committed this crime. Because if you're involved in prosecuting a star, you become a star.
The biggest revelations in YNW Melly's murder trial were made outside the courtroom. In an online interview with Law and Crime Network, Juvie's father, Christopher Thomas, shed light on disputes that had been brewing within the group for a while and that had remained unknown by the public. According to him, Juvie had opened up to him about a deal that would see the three artists, Melly, Juvie, and Sack Chaser, share $500,000 among them. Melly and Sack Chaser would get $200,000, each, while Juvie would get $100,000.
It's not reported, but Chris told me the same story, and also with a $500,000 play, and Melly was going to get $200,000, Sack was going to get $200,000, Chris was going to get $100,000.
The goal was to make the YNW brand global, so selling the brand was the right move for the young rappers. Since the three were the founding members, they were all entitled to a piece of the pie.
As I'm hearing it from Chris, they was going to sell the YNW brand, not a record deal or nothing like that. It was like for the brand itself, and by them being founding members, they was going to get a piece of the pie.
Sack Chaser's mother, Jana Thompson, also revealed that his son also told him about the YNW brand deal. She said that her son reached out to her a few days before he was killed. "My son hysterically called me," she said. "He was very concerned about my whereabouts. He was concerned about his sister's whereabouts. He's concerned like something is going to happen to us. And he told me that he would not get his money," she continued. "He said, 'I'm probably not going to get my $200,000. I'm probably not even going to get my money, Ma.'" However, the lead investigator revealed through text messages between Melly and Sack Chaser that it was actually Sack Chaser who was threatening Melly. Even more shocking is that Sack Chaser was not only threatening Melly, but also Melly's mom, Jamie King. The other motive was revenge related. According to Juvie's dad, there were rumors that apart from Melly getting into a verbal disagreement with Sack Chaser, the two were involved in a fist fight. Sack Chaser had beaten up Melly in front of his then girlfriend.
You know, you heard things about him and Anthony getting into like altercations about disputes about money over certain situations, and they got in a fight prior to that, and they said, like, you know the story that they say Sack beat him up and knocked his goals out in front of his girlfriend, and like.
To top it off, according to a deposition by Felicia Holmes of Melly's ex-girlfriend Mariah's mother, there was some tension as Sack Chaser had sent pictures of his to Melly's girlfriend. Detectives were also able to obtain the rapper's social media messages through search warrants, which revealed the most shocking detail in the case. Shocking revelations, YNW Melly. Confessing to homicide is the most shocking detail in the case. Detectives were able to obtain the rapper's social media messages, specifically Instagram. While sorting through thousands of condolences messages from concerned fans wanting to know whether he was okay, some still in disbelief, confirming whether Sack and Juvie were really dead, Melly's response to one Instagram DM caught the prosecutor's attention. According to the prosecutor, one individual sent Melly a DM asking him, "Yo homie, you good? Let me know something."
One individual, and specifically, sends out, and I want to quote the message exactly that you will hear. "Yo homie, you good? Let me know something."
The prosecutor revealed that the rapper replied to the DM saying, "I did that. Shh."
And Mr. Demmons responds very succinctly, "I did that. Shh."
This exchange between the two was viewed by the prosecution as an admission of guilt. Melly's defense, on the other hand, argued that the prosecution might have taken it out of context, as the conversation is too vague. The prosecution argued back that the context of his reply was crucial in determining that he was talking about the shooting.
So in the context of this message, this individual is reaching out, asking if Mr. Demmons is good, after he's been tagged in multiple social media posts about this drive-through.
The prosecution insisted that the only context that the message could have been sent under was the shooting that had happened earlier. The timing of the message is consistent with the messages he had been receiving since the news broke out that morning. Melly's Instagram DMs wasn't the only account that had damning evidence that would boost the prosecutor's case to the jury. They also gained access to Felicia Holmes' Instagram DMs. In case you forgot, Holmes is the mother of Maria, Melly's ex-girlfriend. The messages found were allegedly between him and Melly's manager, 100K. In the messages, she accused the manager of lying to her that they would take care of them. She also hinted at her snitching. In the message, she says, "The promises that were made to us by YNW for me to quit my job and they would take care of us were all lies. They didn't want us talking with prosecutors, but now they have all disappeared. I quit my job based on what Track and his wife or company said. Now look, we can't go home. We spending all my money I worked for, and they taking trips and enjoying life. If you think I was a beast before, wait until this trial. I'm not holding anything back. I'm doing what I should have done in the beginning. They can call me Miss Snitch, This was shocking. However, Mrs. Holmes was not done. In a separate Instagram message, she wrote, "They made me quit, told me that they would take care of us until trial was over. But what? Lies as usual. I was making $9,000 weekly. I didn't need from them, but everybody begging and pleading. Now they all ghost. I got something for Track though. He lied to me and my child for the last time. Y'all can call me Miss Snitch because I'm airing his out to the prosecutor. I'm tired of him playing with people's lives. He f***ed with the wrong family." Through the Instagram texts that were allegedly sent from Mrs. Holmes' account to Melly's manager, it seemed that she had been promised money to avoid talking to prosecutors. And now that 100K Track has not held his end of the bargain, she was calling him out and didn't mind going public with it. So what exactly did she know that got her threatening Melly's managers? When asked these questions in court, Mrs. Holmes would claim that she did not remember a lot of details since all this happened years ago. First, it was revealed that at some point she was arrested in the Virgin Islands and was extradited back to Florida for avoiding her deposition. According to her, it was not her fault because the cops were sending the orders to the wrong address. The prosecution alleged that Melly's camp was trying very hard to tamper with the witnesses, and among them was Mrs. Holmes. Mr. Demons is doing anything and everything he can to prevent them from showing up, a prosecutor said. The defendant is causing these witnesses not to be available. According to prosecutors, after Melly's manager wired money to Mrs. Holmes, she suddenly stopped answering the state's phone calls. The YNW defense team claimed that the detectives had failed to investigate other leads. According to them, there were other suspects who may have committed the murder. It is important to remember that the defense team's goal is not only to prove their client is innocent, but to also cast a shadow of doubt on the prosecution's case. Melly's defense team apparently had their own leads that they felt that the prosecution was choosing to ignore because they were hell-bent on ending the life and career of another rising black artist. Melly's lawyer worked hard to discredit the prosecution's opening statements. According to the defense, the prosecution still had not established a strong motive for Melly to kill his best friends. The attorney pointed out that if after 4 years of investigations, the authorities had not established any motive, then there simply wasn't any. The YNW Melly defense team pointed to various leads the cops also had, which they had ignored or had been briefly followed up on.
There are a number of leads that you will discover that were identified by the officers but were either completely ignored or given short shrift.
One of the leads that the attorney points out is a gentleman called Montrell Roll and his sister Nia Hewitt. Apparently, cops from another department came across jail calls between the two that occurred within 3 days after the murder. The two discussed details of the murders that had not been made public, meaning that they may have been involved. While Hewitt was interrogated because of the conversation, detectives did not bother to question her brother on the same. As a result, cops lost a lead that may have helped in solving the murder mystery. Another lead that the attorney argued could have been pursued more aggressively by detectives was a gentleman called Robert Colbert. Colbert was the owner of a social media account that was used to post a message that may have led detectives to the murderers. Within days of the murders, the social media account by the name of Backwards posted, "LOL, we killed 2 of your..."
This social media account, almost immediately, within days after these murders, posts this message, "LOL, we killed 2 of your..."
The lawyer revealed that it took detectives 7 months to go and talk to Colbert. By this time, he claimed that he had already sold the account for $20, although he did not know who had bought it. Failing to pursue other leads from the prosecution can also be worrying. Broward County is famous for having the highest level of exonerated convictions. Between 1976 and 2020, 12 people have been wrongfully convicted in Broward County for serious crimes, including murder, and then found innocent years later. With the case being ruled a mistrial, it will be interesting to see how things unfold in the coming months. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.